Hello children. In our last videos, we have seen that Prospero, who is the right Duke of Milan, stands outside his cave with his daughter Miranda watching the storm. Miranda pities the seafarer, saying that she suffered with those whom she saw suffering. She pleads her father to calm the waters by using his magical powers. Prospero assures her and tells her that the shipwreck has not injured anyone, and he begins to tell the story of her childhood. He tells her that 12 years ago he was the rightful Duke of Milan and Miranda was his only heir. She was a princess. Prospero had a younger brother, Antonio, whom he entrusted the business of handling the affairs of the state while he himself spent time in reading the books. Unfortunately, while Prospero was neglecting his responsibilities as a duke and concentrating on his studies, Antonio was busy in making plans to seize the dukedom for himself. Antonio persuaded Alonso to help him and in return promised that as a duke he would pay annual tribute to Naples. Prospero's trust in his brother proved unwise when Antonio formed an alliance with the king of Naples to oust Prospero and seize his heritage. Prospero and his daughter were placed in a small, rickety boat and put out to sea. A sympathetic Neapolitan, Gonzalo, provided them with rich garments, linens, and other necessities. Gonzalo also provided Prospero with books from his library. Eventually, Prospero and Miranda arrived on the island where they have remained since that time. So let's see what happens next. Remember children that this is my fourth video of Act 1, Scene 2. Miranda says, "Would I might but ever see that man. I want to meet that man someday." Who is that man? Gonzalo. Prospero, "Now I arise. Now I will stand up," resumes his mantle. He stands up and puts on his magic cloak. "Sit still and hear the last of our sea sorrow." He says, "Sit still and listen to the rest of the story of our sad times at sea. Here in this island we arrived. We arrived here on this island. And here have I, thy schoolmaster, made thee more profit than other princesses can. Than the other princes can. I, as your teacher here, have given you a better education than other princesses get. That have more time for vainer hours. Vainer hours means foolishness. And tutor not so careful, because they have so many opportunities to spend their time more foolishly and do not pay as close attention to their teachers. Miranda says, "Heavens, thank you for it. May God thank you for that, Father. And now I pray you, sir, for still 'tis beating my mind. But now, please, sir, a question is there in my mind which keeps popping up. Your reason for raising this sea storm. Why did you create this sea storm at the sea?" Prospero, "Know thus far forth. You should know this much. By accident most strange, bountiful fortune, by a strange chance, the goddess of luck, now my dear lady, whom I now love, hath mine enemies brought to this shore, has brought my old enemies to this island. And by my prescience I find my zenith doth depend upon a most auspicious star." Prescience is knowledge of events before they happen. Zenith, the highest point. Auspicious star, favorable star. It was believed that a man's character and fortune were influenced by stars, especially his birth star. So here Prospero says, and by my magic senses, I can tell that my opportunity for good fortune depends on this lucky circumstance. Whose influence, if now I quote, not but omit, my fortunes will ever after drew. And if I do not act but instead do nothing, then I will never again have such an opportunity in my life. Here sees more questions. He says, no more questions now, because thou art inclined to sleep, because you are sleepy. 'Tis a good dullness and give it way. It is a good time for sleepiness and you should give in to it. I know thou canst not choose. I know you have no choice. And Miranda sleeps. She falls asleep. Come away, servant, come. I am ready now. Approach, my Ariel, come. He says, come here, servant, come. I am ready now. Approach, my Ariel. Approach means come. And Ariel enters. Ariel, all hail, great master. Greetings to you, my great master. Grave sir, hail. Respected sir, greetings to you. I come to answer thy best pleasure. I have come to do whatever you would like. Be it to fly, to swim, to dive into the fire, to ride on the curled clouds. Whether it is to fly, to swim, to jump into fire, or to ride upon the clouds, I am ready to do that. To thy strong bidding, task Ariel and all his quality. Whatever you want Ariel to do, ask Ariel and all his many skills to do it. Prospero, hast thou, spirit, performed to point the tempest that I bade thee? Bade means commanded. So here Prospero is asking Ariel, Spirit, have you created and controlled the storm exactly as I told you? Ariel says, to every article, means in every detail. I boarded the king's ship. I boarded the king's ship, now on the beak, now in the waist, the deck. He says, and from the prow to the middle of the ship to the stern. In every cabin I flamed amazement. I flamed amazement means I burned like a flame and caused amazement. He says, in every cabin I took the form of a fire and sent everyone into a terror. Sometime I would divide and burn in many places. Sometimes I would divide myself and burn at many places at once. On the topmast, the yards, and bowsprit would I flame distinctly. Distinctly means individually. He says, I burned on the main mast, the yards extending from the mast, and at the same time split to burn the bowsprit extending from the prow. Then meet and join. Then I joined back together to form a single flame. Jove's lightnings. Jove or Jupiter is the supreme god of Roman mythology, and his chief weapon was the thunderbolt and lightning. So he says Jove's lightning, the precursors of the dreadful thunderclaps, more momentary and sight outrunning, were not. Precursors means harbingers. He says not even Jove's lightning, which precedes and then causes thunder, could move as fast as I did. The fire and cracks of sulphurous roaring, the fire and deafening cracks of my burning seemed to terrify. The most mighty Neptune seemed to besiege and make his bold waves tremble. Neptune is what? The god of the sea, and his chief weapon is the trident. Besieges, attack. He says, even the mighty Neptune, the god of the sea, he made his waves tremble. His dread trident shake, and his weapon, the trident, shake. Prospero, my brave spirit, he feels very happy and he says, oh, my splendid spirit, who was so firm, so constant that this coil could not infect his reason. Was anyone on the ship so strong and steady that the uproar of this storm did not make him crazy? Ariel says, not a soul but felt a fever of the mad and played some tricks of desperation. He says every person on the ship was like a madman and did desperate things. All but mariners plunged in the foaming brine and quit the vessel, then all afire with me. Everyone except the sailors jumped into the rough sea to escape the ship that I had set on fire. The king's son Ferdinand, with hair up staring, then like reeds, not hair. Up staring means standing on head. He says, the king's son, who was the king's son? Ferdinand, with his hair standing straight up, looking like reeds instead of hair, was the first man that leaped. He was the first man who jumped. He cried, he shouted, hell is empty and all the devils are here. He was the first man to shout, hell is empty and all the devils are here. Prospero says, why, that's my spirit. He feels very happy and he says, well done, my spirit. But was not this nigh shore? Nigh means near. But did this happen near the shore? Ariel tells Prospero, close by, my master. Yes, close by the shore, my master. Prospero, but are they, Ariel, safe? But are they all safe, Ariel? Ariel says, not a hair perished. Perished means destroyed, lost. He says, he's telling his master Prospero, not even a hair was harmed on anyone's head. On their sustaining garments, not a blemish. Sustaining means supporting. Even the clothes that helped keep them afloat in the water, not only didn't get stained, but are in fact cleaner than they were before the storm. This is what he says, but fresher than before. Means they are cleaner than they were before the storm. And as thou badest me, and as you had told me to do, in troops I have dispersed them about the isle. Troops means groups. And as you had asked me to do, sir, I have scattered everyone from the ship in a few different groups around the island. The king's son have I landed by himself. I have brought the king's son all by himself to the land on a far corner of the island, whom I left cooling of the air with sighs in an old angle of the isle. He is sitting there with his arms crossed like this in sadness. Ariel crosses his arms like this and he is showing his master Prospero and sitting his arms in this sad knot. And he is sitting this way, crossing his arms and cooling the air with his sighs. So this much is enough for today, children. We will continue the scene in the next video. Thank you.